Mass layoffs will collapse home prices. Layoffs seem to be exploding as major companies are announcing letting employees go from their jobs in what appears to be extremely large numbers. Job losses affecting the housing market, as many of these employees that are being let go probably have mortgages, or if not, maybe want to purchase a home. The big question is, can these employees that are being laid off quickly find another job that is paying them at least as much as they were making at the job they lost? In the past, major job loss negatively impacted home prices, as we observed in the 2008 housing market crash when foreclosures flooded the market from high unemployment. Mass layoffs are coming now at a time when the housing affordability has never been worse. So will those who have lost their job or maybe losing their job panic sell their home, adding to the rising home inventory? This would create a lot more competition for those now struggling to sell their homes. Now let's look at 5 major companies that have recently announced major layoffs, what cities may be affected the most, and what jobs seem to be the least secure moving into the future. I'm a real estate broker here in Maryland, and part of my business is helping buyers and sellers navigate uncertain times. So if you want to stay up to date with what's happening in the housing market, please consider subscribing to our channel now if you haven't already done so. So when I'm looking to see what companies are laying off and closing their doors, I look to a site called dailyjobcuts.com. Now, before you jump to conclusions, I don't get paid from this site at all, so I don't even know who they are, so I'm not biased in any regard. So one of the major companies that has laid off more recently really grabbed my attention, as they were once the #1 mortgage originator in the U.S. And the big announcement came on December 4th that Wells Fargo is having another round of layoffs, 721 to be exact. The link from Daily Job Cuts takes us to an article on opb.org stating that Wells Fargo leaders informed Oregon officials Wednesday that next year's office closure would impact hundreds of the Salem, Hillsboro, and Portland areas. The banking giant outlined its plans to lay off approximately 500 employees from its call center at 10500 Northeast Walker Road in Hillsboro and 221 employees from its office at 355 Hawthorne Avenue in Salem. Wells Fargo has been slimming down its Oregon presence over the last couple of years. The bank has laid off around 400 workers at its Hillsboro locations since the start of 2023. So 500 people losing their jobs in Hillsboro, Oregon alone. According to Zillow, Hillsboro area saw home prices rise from May of 2020 through July of 2022, on average $144,658. This was a 35% increase in just about 2 years. But I wonder what will happen to a city that loses 500 positions from one company alone. The jobs market is one of the only threads that has kept the housing market bubble from bursting this far. I've said this on many of my videos. But what most people don't realize is the rippling effect that a job loss from one industry creates more job losses in other industries. In commercial real estate classes that I've completed in the past, they call this the employment multiplier. And let me show you what I'm referring to. Let's look at EPI.org, the Economic Policy Institute's website. There are 2 obvious ways to measure how intensive an industry's backward and forward linkages are to the rest of the economy. The first estimates the ripple effects of a given number of jobs being lost directly in an industry. In this case, the direct job loss assumed to be, say, 100, and then the resulting backward and forward ripple effects can be estimated. Now, in Table 1 here, we're looking at major industry groups. That's the first column. And what we're looking at is the direct jobs. This is per 100 jobs in this chart. There are what's known as supplier jobs and induced jobs. Now, supplier jobs are the linkages between this direct employee working in a specific industry, the supporting or the linking industries, supplier jobs that are impacted by hiring these direct jobs. then the induced jobs are really the money that these employees spend. So a good example would be a restaurant. For example, in a city that a major employer comes to town, they bring the employees in, they're going to shop in that direct area or in that direct local economy, and that's more of the induced jobs. And then the total indirect jobs are the combination of these two together that reflects how many jobs are created from a major industry direct job. As you see, this has a trickle-down effect, and we'll come back to this, but for better clarification, let's look at lightcast.io. Here, they make this explanation very simple. Job multipliers. A jobs multiplier indicates how important an industry is in regional job creation. A jobs multiplier of 3, for example, would mean that for every job created by that industry, 2 other jobs would be created in other industries for a total of 3 jobs. Now back to EPI.org's chart. So I've dropped a link to this chart below for you to check out, but you will have to click on the article and scroll down until you see the chart. But as you can see, the industry, the major industry that has the highest multiplier on this entire chart just so happens to be my industry, real estate and rental leasing. So in the case of Wells Fargo, the slowdown in the real estate industry may have been the major cause of them laying off more than 1,100 people since 2023. So again, see how this rippling effect can take a hold of an economy? Now, with Wells Fargo layoffs, they will also affect other industry jobs. For example, if we are at a 40-year low in home sales, it not only affects realtors, it affects loan officers, underwriters, appraisers, home inspectors, title companies, and so on. You follow me? So you may ask, how can layoffs or job creation in a specific industry that your industry supports affect you? This works in both a positive and negative way based on an industry's expansion or contraction. Now let's look at the 4 other major layoffs recently announced. FedEx to lay off 340 workers in Raleigh and Durham as it cuts and closes shipping centers. On Statista.com, they show FedEx revenue declining since 2022. What can this tell you about the economy as the shipping giant appears to have lost nearly $6 billion in revenue in 3 years' time? So I checked out the other shipping giant, UPS, and they show a loss of revenue from 2022 through 2023 of over $9 million, and their 2024 won't be reported until 2025 as their fiscal year ends on December 31st. And this one may be a surprise to you, but in North Kansas, Tyson Food has shocked the community, announcing that they are set to lay off hundreds of employees in the Emporia area. And Trey Cocking, Emporia's city manager, told 27 News his office received a letter from Tyson Food, Inc. that the local facility would be closed on February 14th, 2025. He said their loss would be felt, and described the move as a setback as the company is a top employer for the local community. Foodprocessing.com published an article on December 3rd stating, according to the local news reports, Tyson Foods will shut down operations at 2 facilities in Emporia, Kansas within the next several months. State and local workforce filings confirmed that the company would close its lab around December 20th, 2024, and it will shutter the processing plant in town around February 14th of 2025. The report noted it anticipates that 804 jobs will be eliminated between the 2 closings. This article also stated that the Emporia plant was once a slaughter plant, but around 2008, the cattle supply began to dry up in the region. Tyson Foods converted it to a value-added beef and pork cutting facility. Maybe this major switch in operation in 2008 had something to do with the great financial crisis. And moving right along, SolarEdge is cutting 12% of its staff after $1 billion write-down. This article can be found on EnergyConnects.com. They're eliminating about 500 jobs, mostly in South Korea. However, the article reports that this Israel-based company's struggles reflect a broader downturn in the U.S. sector as high interest rates make residential power more expensive for consumers, dragging down sales. The company said this month the inventory was piling up in warehouses, and it warned that margins would be non-existent or even negative. Rival Enphase Energy Inc. recently fired about 17% of its staff, citing reduced demand. Now, this shows you how connected we are globally and that jobs can be created or lost in other countries based on the U.S. economy. Now, finally, Microsoft's LinkedIn lays off 200 employees. The information provided in this Yahoo Finance article published on November 21st states that LinkedIn laid off about 200 employees over the past 2 weeks. The information reported on Thursday with the cuts happening within the engineering and customer support departments. LinkedIn had trimmed about 2,000 roles in 2023 as it moved to reduce expenses in face of slowing revenue and sluggish advertising sales. The layoffs also came amid a broader round of job cuts in the technology sector. Now, as you may already know, LinkedIn makes money on promoting jobs for hire. Could their declining revenue in advertising be due to employers cutting back? So is your job safe in 2025? On Gapper.io, they state that artificial intelligence, AI, is no longer just a buzzword, it's rapidly becoming a fundamental part of how industries operate. It states that repetitive and rule-based tasks are prime targets. And they list 15 jobs AI will likely replace by 2030. Data entry clerks, telemarketers, receptionists, customer service, bookkeeping clerks, retail cashiers, truck and taxi drivers. Would Uber and Lyft drivers be included here? Proofreaders, manufacturing workers, delivery drivers, security guards, market research analysts, pharmacists, legal assistants, and financial analysts. Well, my question is, journalists and YouTubers didn't make that top 15 list, but will we be eliminated as well? So what jobs might have the brightest future? GoodwinRecruiting.com suggests the fastest growing industries for jobs in 2025 include cybersecurity, AI and machine learning, healthcare, education technology, and renewable energy. So maybe these are a few careers that interest you, because I like to say when one door closes, another opens. Thanks for watching. Sachs Realty, Maryland broker number 607720, office number 443-318-4514, equal housing opportunity.